Okay, this is my other Real Thoughts video taking place after a rant that I previously made. And I know this one will raise some eyebrows, but I said I would consider it, and here we are. These are my real thoughts on Byter 7.5. Now, before you assume anything, nothing about my opinion on him as a reviewer has changed in any way. I still don't think he's good. However, now that I'm not in my asshole mode, there are some things I would like to address. I've been told by many that Byter is an egotistical jerk. That is actually the least offensive thing I could think of to describe what others have said about him. He has presented himself to be an egotistical jerk. And from what I've seen, I can understand why. Whenever people try to point out his flaws, he's always coming up with some kind of comeback. Whether or not his individual defenses are wrong or right, he still tends to address them as if he's talking down to the person who has a problem with him. Even Brony has gone so far as to say that he has had more intelligent exchanges with toddlers. Now, I'm sure you probably thought that I criticized him because Mr. Enter had a problem with him. Now, while I did cite Mr. Enter, I didn't have problems with Byter because of Enter. I thought he was a bad critic on my own merits. In the same way Voice told me that Golden Fox is a good critic before. Let's try not to speak of that for now. I admit my rant against Byter, while partially accurate, did not feel very informative. I simply posted a compilation of criticisms towards each episode that didn't make sense. A common criticism I've gotten for this is that I didn't back them up. For example, I posted Byter thinks testing 123 was fan pandering. Okay, so why exactly is it a bad thing that Byter claims that testing 123 was fan pandering? One thing I could say is that the episode was not fan pandering in any way, or at least its fan pandering wasn't plentiful enough to be distracting. Even if Pinky's rap could be considered pandering, it wouldn't be the first time the show has done something like this. Even earlier episodes of Season 4 contained, well, things that could be considered fan pandering. To put my argument simply, what exactly did Byter think was in the episode that he would call fan pandering? Was it Rarity dressing up, Fluttershy's play where the pets interact while dressed as royalty, the ending where a whole bunch of background characters came together to assist Dash, Spike playing the drums while Dash goofs off with Owlicious? Even if there was notable service in all of those things, Byter failed to realize that all of these things were helping to move the plot forward, or were related to the plot in some way. The point of the episode was the main six and Spike helping Dash learn which method of education was best for her. It was not done to pander or give service to the fans. And if that is something that happened, that wasn't the intent. They were using this as a means to further the storytelling. Of course, that would mean I'd have to further clarify with an additional explanation as to why I had problems with all the other criticisms that I listed. However, I didn't do so for two reasons. Reason 1. I brought up at least 2 criticisms per episode for over 2/3 of a season worth of episode reviews. I spent about a minute talking about why Byter's fan pandering criticisms towards testing 123 alone made no sense. Now, 1 minute per clarification doesn't sound so bad, right? Well, multiply that by 2, then multiply that by 18. I would have spent 36 minutes recording my voice to further explain as to why Byter's criticisms were not good. And that's just the voice recording process of my video creation alone. Each video I make takes several hours to put together, even more so depending on the final length of the video. Now, I understand. Maybe I was being too lazy to take more time to back myself up. However, that leads to reason 2 as to why I didn't back up these claims. Reason 2. As I said earlier, Byter will always think of a comeback to defend himself. Even if my comeback was as accurate as it possibly could be, Byter would have tried to come up with another reason as to why he believes I was misinformed. I've been told that it would have been a waste of time trying to get to him, and from what I've seen, it kind of is. I actually had a simple conversation with him on his DeviantArt comment section after the rant was posted, and I stated that it would have been pointless for us to go back and forth at each other because there was never going to be a conclusion in sight if we simply just kept on responding to each other with our videos. I also read that his review of the episode Twilight's Kingdom was stated as feeling like he was reviewing an audiobook, which might not have been so bad, except that he really did review the episode as an audiobook. He was only listening to the episode's audio, not watching it while playing a game on a different tab. Byter, if you're watching this now, and I mean this in the nicest way that I possibly can outside of my rants, do you not see where people are coming from when they complain about you as a reviewer? You could at least try to understand why you have gotten the backlash you did. Maybe the reasons are more complicated to understand. I mean, the backlash for me, it's simple. It's one thing. I was an asshole to some people. I get that. But as a critic who has been reviewing this show longer than myself, maybe you have a larger mix of problems people have with you, and it may cause confusion. But I do need to say this. It's one thing to make mistakes, it's another thing to get into conflict with people trying to point those mistakes out to you. If you were simply disagreeing with them, I can understand. There's a difference between disagreement and conflict, and you tend to get into conflict more than you do simple disagreements. Now, if there's anything that I can say about you that is good, it's that, well, you do seem like a casual person when you're not reviewing the show, or any kind of storytelling. At the risk of going into something I'm trying to avoid going into at this moment, I know that you're close friends with Any, and that you're dating Mage. I'm not sure what it is that you got that helps you to be friends with them, but I can say what I do know that you have. It's gonna sound silly, but you seem to have a better sense of morality. You don't tell people you're going to bash them unless it's part of a response to defend yourself. And as far as I know, your bashing has not resulted in long-term consequences. I saw you playing that game with Any and Mage. You seem like a normal person hanging out with someone he's friends with, which is far more than I can say for myself at this point. Byter, I still don't think you're a good reviewer, and I likely never will. That's my problem, and I understand that. I also advise you to try to understand the criticism that you've been receiving more than you already are. And lastly, just promise me one thing. Please don't do something that will cause you to lose the respect of people who think of you as a friend. Don't do what I did. MisAnthro Pony, over and out.